Exposed. Was Ian of Hearts2Hearts a hardcore army long before fame? Or is this the first clue of an idol destiny written by Jungkook? Was this really just a cute teenage fandom moment? Or the very first page of an idol destiny that had already been written years ago? What if one small detail, a forgotten photo, a simple pop socket on the back of a phone, was actually the silent witness to a future that nobody noticed at the time? What if the path to becoming an idol was not chosen one day, but planted quietly in a young girl's heart the moment she looked at someone she admired and thought, I want to shine like that? The K-pop world thought it was just another harmless viral post. But the moment that pre-debut photo of Ian from Hearts2Hearts resurfaced, nothing felt ordinary anymore. In that image, taken long before stages, lights, and fan chants, Ian is just a teenager holding her phone. And on the back of that phone, clear as fate itself, is a pop socket with Jungkook of BTS, taken from the iconic Persona era, smiling while holding a donut. Cute. Simple, but suddenly dangerous with meaning. Netizens didn't just see a fan. They saw a clue, and the question exploded everywhere. Was Jungkook the reason Ian chose the idol path? Because sometimes, fandom is not just admiration. Sometimes, it is the beginning of a dream that refuses to stay small. The post first appeared on a Korean online forum, later translated and shared by Panchoa, then spread like wildfire on X, formerly known as Twitter. The title alone was enough to make people stop scrolling. Hearts2Hearts Ian was a Jungkook fan, but the reactions were anything but small. Within hours, the post crossed hundreds of thousands of views. Fans zoomed in. Fans analyzed. Fans compared timelines. Fans started connecting invisible dots. Why did this photo matter so much? Because Ian is not just any rookie idol. She is the center of Hearts2Hearts, a girl group under SM Entertainment that debuted on February 24, 2025, with their single album The Chase. She was born on October 9, 2009, with the name John Leon, only 16. Former child model, known for her visuals, often compared to Karina of aespa, a symbol of the new generation, and suddenly, people were staring at a photo from before any of that existed at a young Ian. No stage makeup.
No spotlight.
No debut plans in the public eye. Just a girl and Jungkook on her phone. Some netizens laughed and said it was obvious. Who wasn't a Jungkook fan, they asked. During the Persona era, Jungkook didn't just dominate charts. He dominated teenage hearts. In classrooms, on buses, in bedrooms, on phone cases, on notebooks. Girls in middle school and high school carried his face everywhere. So why should Ian be any different? But others didn't stop there. They looked at her age. They looked at the era of that photo. They looked at when Hearts2Hearts members would have started training. And then a different kind of question appeared, one that felt heavier, more emotional, more dangerous to ignore. What if this wasn't just fandom? What if this was the moment an idol was born inside her, long before the world knew her name? Because there is something haunting about idols who once stood in the crowd, screaming someone else's name. Before the crowd started screaming theirs, people began to imagine a story. A young girl watching BTS stages. A young girl replaying Jungkook's performances. A young girl dreaming in secret. Not dreaming of being rich, not dreaming of being famous, but dreaming of standing under the same kind of lights, feeling the same kind of love. Netizens started saying this wasn't coincidence. They called it idol destiny. They said the pop socket wasn't decoration, it was a sign. A sign that Ian didn't just admire Jungkook, but wanted to become someone like him. Someone who moves people. Someone who makes fans feel seen. Some comments were playful. Being a Jungkook fan is a green flag, one user wrote. Another said, everyone is a Jungkook fan. He is the king of K-pop. Others said it was cute. Others said it was expected, but a different conversation also started growing under the same post, darker and more uncomfortable. People began comparing Ian's face in the old photo to her face now. They zoomed in on her nose. They circled it. They posted side-by-side images. And then came the questions that always follow idols, especially young female idols. Why does her nose look different? Did a 16-year-old already get plastic surgery? Why does she look so different now? No agency statement.
No confirmation.
Just speculation, like a storm that forms when people stare too long at a single image and forget that humans grow, faces change, lighting lies, angles deceive. But while some focused on her appearance, many others refused to let the main story be buried, because the main story was not about a nose. The main story was about a dream that might have started with Jungkook. People began to say that this is why stories like this feel magical. An idol who once loved an idol. A future star who once stood emotionally where fans stand now. They said this makes Ian more relatable, more human, more real. Because if she once screamed for Jungkook, then every fan screaming for her today might be looking at a mirror of themselves. Some fans began to imagine the impossible. What if one day, Hearts2Hearts stands on the same stage as BTS? What if Ian meets Jungkook face to face, not as a fan, but as a fellow artist? What if she tells him, "I started dreaming because of you"? That thought alone was enough to make people emotional, and suddenly, that tiny pop socket felt like the first chapter of a story nobody knew they were reading at the time. SM Entertainment stayed silent. No comment.
No explanation.
No confirmation of anything except what the world already knew. Ian is the center of Hearts2Hearts, and Hearts2Hearts is rising fast. But silence only makes stories louder, because fans don't just consume news. They feel it. They build emotions around it. They write their own versions in their hearts, and in their version, Ian was once just another teenage army. She laughed at Jungkook's jokes. She replayed his stages. She stuck his face on her phone because he made her feel something she couldn't explain yet. And then, one day, she decided not to just admire the light, but to become part of it. Is that true? Nobody can prove it. Nobody can deny it. But the idea is powerful enough to change how people look at her. Because now, when Ian stands in the center of the stage, some fans don't just see a rookie idol. They see a former fan who crossed the invisible line between audience and artist. They see a girl who might have once whispered, "I want to be like him," and then spent years turning that whisper into reality. That is why netizens said, "This is not coincidence." They said destiny in K-pop doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it hides in small things. In posters on walls. In songs played at night through earphones. In a pop socket on a phone that nobody thought would matter one day, until it did. The story of Ian and Jungkook is not officially written. It is not confirmed. It is not proven. But it lives now in the hearts of fans, and once a story lives there, it becomes stronger than any statement, because people don't just want idols. They want stories. They want emotion. They want to believe that dreams are possible, and what is more powerful than this? A girl who once loved an idol, becoming an idol herself. When fans now watch Ian perform, some of them don't just cheer for her success. They cheer for their own dreams. They tell themselves, if she could go from fan to star, maybe dreams really do listen when you call them long enough. And somewhere in that old photo, frozen in time, is a younger Ian holding a phone with Jungkook smiling back at her. Not knowing that years later, the world would look at that moment and say, maybe that was the beginning of everything. Was Jungkook just a favorite idol? Or was he the spark that lit an entire future? The world may never know the full truth. But one thing is already clear, that pop socket is no longer just cute. It is legendary, and as the story kept spreading, it stopped being just about one photo. It became a mirror, reflecting how K-pop itself is built not only on talent and training, but on emotion, imitation, and invisible inspiration passed from one generation to the next, because this is how the K-pop cycle works. One idol stands on stage. Thousands watch. Among those thousands, a few don't just clap. They dream. They copy the dances in their rooms. They practice singing in secret. They imagine another version of themselves under different lights. And years later, some of them return not as fans, but as artists. Netizens began calling Ian a fan who crossed dimensions. They said she moved from the audience side of the stage to the spotlight side. From chanting someone else's name to hearing her own name shouted back at her. And that transition, to many people, feels almost unreal. Some fans even went back to watch old BTS stages from the Persona era, trying to imagine Ian somewhere in that invisible crowd. Was she watching Jungkook's performances on TV after school? Was she replaying his fan cams late at night? Was she quietly telling herself, "I want to be like that"? No one can answer those questions. But the fact that people are even asking them shows how powerful this tiny detail has become, because if this really was the moment her dream started, then that pop socket is not decoration. It is a symbol of the first time her heart leaned toward the stage, and suddenly, fans started paying closer attention to Ian's performance style, her expressions, her confidence, the way she stands in the center. Some said they could see traces of Jungkook's influence in her energy, in her way of connecting with the camera, in her bright but strong presence. Are those similarities real? Or are fans just projecting a story they want to believe? That question itself is part of the magic. K-pop has always been more than music. It is storytelling. It is fantasy mixed with reality. Fans don't just watch idols grow. They grow with them, emotionally. And when a story like this appears, it gives fans something to hold on to. Some fans said this made them love Ian even more. They said, "She's just like us. She had an idol too." They said it makes her journey feel closer, more human, less distant. Others said it proves how powerful BTS is, not just as artists, but as dream makers. They don't just sell albums. They create future idols. They plant seeds that bloom years later in different groups, different companies, different stages. And in that sense, Jungkook is not just a singer. He is a starting point for other dreams. That idea alone made many fans emotional. Because it means that when they support their favorite idols today, they might be supporting the inspiration for tomorrow's stars. Some fans even joked, "Who knows? Maybe there is another future idol right now with Ian's face on their phone." The cycle never ends. But the story also shows how dangerous fame can be, especially for someone so young. Because while some fans were celebrating her fandom, others were dissecting her face, her past, her body, her changes. They forgot that behind the idol is a 16-year-old who once lived a normal life, with normal insecurities, normal growth, normal changes. They forgot that before being an idol, she was just a fan. And maybe that is the most important part of the story, because the photo reminds everyone that idols are not born famous. They are born ordinary. They laugh. They admire. They copy, they dream, and sometimes they succeed at SO now. Every time someone looks at Ian, they might not just see the center of Hearts2Hearts. They might see a former ARMY who carried Jungkook in her pocket before she carried a microphone in her hand. They might see proof that dreams can travel quietly through time, hiding in small objects, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. And maybe one day, if fate really enjoys playing with stories, Ian will stand on a stage next to Jungkook. Maybe she will bow to him not as a fan, but as a colleague. Maybe she will smile and remember the girl she once was. And maybe, in that moment, she will understand that the pop socket was never just a cute accessory. IT was a promise she didn't know she was making, a promise to herself. A promise to become someone who could make others dream, the same way Jungkook once made her dream. SO the world keeps asking, was this really just coincidence? Or was it destiny quietly waving from the back of a phone, years before anyone noticed? And as the story refuses to fade, something even more interesting begins to happen. Fans stop looking only at the past and start staring hard at the future. Because if Ian truly began as a Jungkook fan, then what kind of artist will she become now that she is standing in her own light? Will she copy what inspired her, or will she transform it into something completely new? Some fans believe influence never disappears. It only changes shape. They say that somewhere inside Ian's stage presence, her confidence, her smile, her way of owning the camera, there might be echoes of the artist she once admired. Not because she is copying, but because inspiration leaves fingerprints on the soul, and that makes people curious in a deeper way. They start to ask, what kind of music does Ian secretly love now? Does she still listen to BTS? Does she still smile when Jungkook appears on screen? Or has her world changed so much that she no longer has time to be a fan in the same way? These questions are never answered, and maybe they never should be. Because mystery is part of what keeps fans watching. Every time Hearts2Hearts releases a new performance, some fans don't just watch for choreography or vocals. They watch for clues, a gesture, an expression,
A vibe.
something that might whisper, "This is where she came from." And even if those clues exist only in the imagination of fans, they still feel real enough to matter. This is how legends begin in K-pop. Not with facts alone, but with feelings,